Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Kachi Ofia, who is now going to catch the flow of the program with stories trending from around the world. Hello, Kachi. How was your weekend? Good to see you.
I had a fantastic weekend, Dr. Abati. Good morning. Good morning, Sundun. Good morning, Rafai. I hope you had lovely weekends as well. Good morning, viewers. Let's take a look at what's trending today, where a former communications minister in the Afghan government is now taking the job of a delivery man in the eastern city of Leipzig after moving to Germany for a better life. Now, Syed Sadat, who left Afghanistan last year, said he was criticized many times for taking up such a job, having served in the government for 2 years before then leaving office in 2018. But the 49-year-old British Afghan had quit the Afghan government because of disagreements with members of the presidential circle. Now, Sadat, whose aim is to work as an IT or telecommunications expert, said he actually learned German language before he switched, his 6-hour evening shift to delivering meals for people. Now, this was written by an article. This was an article rather written by Mohammed Sanir. And what he was trying to point out basically was the fact that leadership goes beyond your term in the office. What happens to our leaders when they finally leave office? What happened to that life of servitude? Is it so bad if our leader decides, you know what? As much as I'm out of office, I still want to serve the people, but in other capacities. He made reference to the situation happening in Afghanistan right now with the Taliban, and how the president fled the country, even without informing his ministers. And then he made reference to that which is happening in Nigeria today, saying, how would our own leaders react if push was to come to shove, for instance? Just a few months ago, in the House on the Rock, we saw Pastor Paula Defarasin, speaking on how every Nigerian should have a plan B. And one thing that really came from that conversation was the fact that for an elite, for somebody who's privileged, it's easy to say, oh, have a plan B. But what about the average woman who's selling akara by the road and does not even have a valid passport because there are no booklets available and she doesn't have enough money to get her booklet out on time? How does she have a plan B? So this article was just basically to point out that leadership goes way beyond your time in office to retiring to a life of luxury. It's a life of sacrifice, it's a life of service, and it should continue and not just stop.
Well, I thought it was a really interesting article, but I kind of look at the former minister as a courier. I actually see him as more dignified as a courier than he was as a minister, because there is no dignity higher than being true to yourself, having integrity and peace of mind. No job title can give you that. So I think he actually did the right thing. He's living a much simpler life, but in my mind, a better life. And you might recall the pictures of President Gowon when he went back to school in the University of Warwick, queuing in the cafeteria, and there's a huge hoo-ha about it. But the vagaries of life happen to us all, and that's just what it is. Now, your rhetorical question about what our leaders would do if they were in that situation is exactly why people steal hand over fist. What they're trying to do is assure themselves, their children, build some kind of war chest against those vagaries of life, so that if push comes to shove, they can jump the way what's his name, President Ghani. Yes, the rumor, which is not confirmed, I have to stress, the speculation about him is that he fled Afghanistan with millions and millions of dollars in cash. I hate to repeat speculation, but this is why our leaders behave as they do and loot as they do, to ensure themselves and to inure themselves from certain circumstances, rather than actually buckle down and do the work and allow those circumstances never to occur in the first case. It's just such a shame with Afghanistan and the way things have gone here. I recall very clearly the Taliban offering Osama bin Laden to President Bush, and he turned them down, preferring to go and bomb them and blitz them into submission, saying that they have no right to give him a condition. They told him, if you stop bombing, we will give you bin Laden. And he refused then. And look at all the chaos. Look at the millions and millions. $300 million a day has been thrown down the drain in Afghanistan. It's tragic.
Well, the Afghan minister that you are referred to, his name is Syed Sadat. He was Minister of Communications up until 2018 in Afghanistan. He didn't leave because of the Taliban. He left, he just decided on his own to relocate to Germany to seek better opportunities. And why he chose Germany is curious, because he has dual nationality. He has a passport of Afghanistan, he has a passport of Britain, where he took degrees in IT and telecommunications. But he opted for Germany. For some reason, Germany is a major attraction for Afghans seeking a better life abroad. According to one report, there's been a jump of about 130% in the number of Afghans who want to go to Germany. So he falls into this category of persons who think that there are better opportunities in Germany. But he's a he's a delivery man because, as you pointed out, he has constraints of language. He cannot speak German. Otherwise, if he could speak the German language, he probably would be able to put his certificates on the table and get a job in IT and telecom. Now, people are referring to this because they say, oh, how can a former minister become a delivery man? Well, he says a job is a job, yes, and that he would like to see, other politicians in Afghanistan who now are under pressure to go into exile, or to become refugees elsewhere, to also see that there is dignity in labor. And I think that is the important point that needs to be stressed. Look, when I was in Maryland many years ago, my bank manager, the lady who always attended to me, all fully dressed and all that, I almost fainted the day I saw her in one of those shops as a shop assistant in the evening. I had to ask her, I said, Maria, what's going on here? She said, oh, I just do this just to supplement my income. So during the daytime, she saw looking at fully dressed up, sitting behind her desk, and everybody is, going to her to take directions. In the evening, you will meet the same person as a shop assistant in one big supermarket. And there have been cases of professors who will teach in the morning, they will drive taxis in the evening. So if anybody is trying to say that being a delivery man is something that is beneath him, I don't think that that's the mentality in other parts of the world. Here in Nigeria, we may think so, but other people in other parts of the world do not think in that manner. And finally, as to what lessons that Nigerians can learn, well, let's start with our politicians. Too many people are big men in Nigeria. If they get the opportunity to go into a government to serve either as a minister or in whatever capacity, when the tenure ends, one, they don't want to leave Abuja. Well, I'm not condemning anybody. Maybe it's a matter of personal choice. But I worry more about persons who become invalids mentally and also in terms of the choices that they make. Can you imagine, a Nigerian big man will tell you, oh, you can never do that. Okay, but if you have a family to keep, then you better leave your options open. It's simply about survival. And the big lesson from Afghanistan is that anything can happen in any country at any time. If you mismanage your country and you depend always on outsiders, thinking that outsiders will help you, maybe they won't help you. And then you have to rush towards the border to seek a better life. It's not everybody that will be so privileged in that regard. And that's one of the big lessons from Afghanistan. We need to protect this country. We need to make sure that Nigeria works. If we fail, we will have failed ourselves. I hope the day will not come when any person from any part of Nigeria will become a refugee and there will be a mass exodus out of Nigeria. We must not allow that to happen.
But sad reality, Dr. But it's already happening. Our doctors are already talking of how juicy the salary pay is in Saudi Arabia than being in Nigeria, while doctors are still on strike in Nigeria. And the Nigerian Medical Association is about to join the resident doctors. Some of them that were interviewed in the national dailies said how juicy the pay was. But if you juxtapose that with the same 20, 30, 40 years ago, when social mobility was in the increase in this country, doctors prefer to stay here. They prefer to work here because the economy was viable. And what does this story tell all of us? It shows all of us to look inwards because we are the only ones that can develop our country. Because all those countries we are running to, they developed their own country. A quick country, a lot of Nigerians run to Canada. Canada used to have over 17% 17% interest rate in the 70s. But they brought it down to an economy that was beneficial for all in Canada. They had struggles, they went through their time, and leadership revamped the process for them. So what are we doing with our country? And that's why when we come here to talk every morning, some people say, oh, we don't like us, you speak the truth. We have to speak the truth because we don't want our country to turn into a country where professors in Nigeria are going to work in bakeries in Togo. We don't want our country to become that way. And this is an indication of a failure of a country. And the blame is enough to go around as regards the Afghan situation. The Americans have a lot of the blame to share. The British have a lot of the blame to share. The French have a lot of the blame to share. The Western world in general have a lot of the blame to share. Because if you go back historically, if Sykes and Picot didn't draw their line in the sand over the Middle East, we will not have most of the crisis. If Mr. Sykes and Picot didn't share most territories, between the British and the French, we will not have all of this. If the British didn't try to invade Afghanistan in the 1830s, 1840s, we will not have all of this crisis we're having. But apart from that, even if they tried invading, then what was the role of an Ashraf Ghani that wrote a book on how nations fail and don't succeed, but he can't put the book he wrote to test when it comes to saving his country? Wasn't Afghanistan embroiled in corruption? Wasn't it embroiled in massive, state-sponsored corruption? So you can see all of the factors there. But it's just an indication that if you don't do right, a country can go down. And for further reading, I recommend we all read the book of Daran Acemoglu, Why Nations Fail. Most Nigerians should get that book. Because if we read it critically, then we'll know that all these things we are saying are things we should employ because we don't want Nigeria to be a failed nation.
Well, don't travel too far to Acemoglu. Professor Patutomi has a book of a similar title, which in fact breaks down the Nigerian situation more familiarly.
Well, let's move on to speak about what Garba Shehu, the presidential aide, said about dismissing claims of preferential treatment in the handling of matters concerning bandits. Now, he mentioned that the handling of matters concerning bandits and other people posing threats to the nation's stability, that is, Nigeria's stability in the northern region of the country, is unfair. Now, Shehu, who was asked in an interview with BBC Pidgin on Saturday why the federal government had not declared bandits and criminal herdsmen terrorists or outlawed them just as it prescribed IPOB, alleged that was, what the Buhari-led administration has done to bandits is worse than declaring them terrorists. Now, he said that while there is a subsisting order by the president to shoot any bandit on sight, there is no such order, against the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra. Now, Garba Shehu also claimed that progress is being made in the fight against bandits. And now people are starting to ask, how do you juxtapose his statement with recent reports of the rehabilitation, of, that is, Boko Haram insurgents who have actually surrendered. But we're going to take a quick break right now on the morning show. And when we get back, we'll get into this conversation in detail. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Just before the break, we were speaking on the presidential aide Garba Shehu and how he is comparing the treatment of IPOB to that of the bandits. Now, what he's saying basically is that there is no preferential treatment for the bandits. In fact, there is a shoot-on-sight order for any AK-47 wielding, bandits or terrorists or however you may deem to call them. So in response to what he's saying, people are now asking, how do you juxtapose the fact that these are people that we've been told to treat with kindness and love and forgiveness? These are people that are now being rehabilitated and brought back into the society, with the fact that with regards to people of the IPOB, it's very harsh, it's very direct, it's very strict. I don't see anyone saying that. I won't even advise anyone to even give such an order of forgiveness or love. So basically, I believe that he was responding as a result of the disparity in treatment that a lot of people have been complaining about lately.
Well, words matter, language matters. You cannot call terrorist bandits, because the appellation goes to how they will be treated and how they're addressed is extremely significant. It reminds me of this really important passage, as for me, the best part of George Orwell's 1984, when the revolution is complete, the language will be perfect. Talking about how the government, the thought police, will remove certain words out of the lexicon so they will no longer be bad, it will be ungood. So this is how language is dumbed down and issues are diluted such that it loses its meaning. These are terrorists, and they should be called terrorists. It also brings to mind the KKN protests in 90s Indonesia against Suharto. KKN, when they're spelling in Indonesian, collusion, corruption, and nepotism. It appears that this government is in collusion with these people. If you continue to sort of dance around the obvious fact that we are not dealing with banditry, it is an obvious fact. Any other argument is not just wholly unconvincing, it is an insult, quite frankly. And I'm sure Garba Shehu pointing out improvements in his mind. Have you ever heard of anybody being shot on sight? The president's directive. Has it actually been carried out? Why? Because that famed body language is there. He has said one thing, but in other ways, it's clear that that mandate is lacking. Nobody has been shot on sight, quite frankly. Who have you heard has been shot on sight? I haven't. I really haven't. So the language, spoken and non-verbal, is quite clear. And for me to have to say, we've talked about corruption with regards to this government and previous governments, nepotism with regards to this government. It's a shame we have to now start to discuss collusion as if we're Indonesian back in the 90s. It's completely wrong and it's unacceptable. I find it actually quite insulting, this statement by Garba Shehu. I find it offensive. Nobody feels any safer in Nigeria today. So I have no idea what he's talking about.
Well, as a man with some experience in the kind of job that Garba Shehu is doing, I've always said that vulnerability is not necessarily an advantage, it's not an asset in that kind of job. When a spokesperson becomes vulnerable, responds to everything, comments on impulse, on everything, then of course you are likely to start making mistakes and, and be seen to be a bit insensitive. Garba Shehu was speaking on a program on BBC, the BBC Pidgin program, and the question was put to him. And in an attempt to defend the administration, he made this statement about the president having done worse than he ever did to any other group in Nigeria, to the bandits. And then, of course, if you look at the front page of The Sun today, the Sun newspaper says, presidency under fire. Virtually every group in Nigeria, including groups from the north, have condemned what Garba Shehu has said, because he's trying to compare the terrorists in the north with IPOB. It's really the height of insensitivity. It is provocative. I hope that perhaps, as is the fashion in Nigeria, by the end of the day, we will probably say that BBC quoted him out of context, or that Pidgin not being his primary means of communication, that whatever he said was misinterpreted. What is clear, the sum of the reaction by all the groups and persons who spoke in that report by Daily Sun, is that one, that the administration of the day is partial when it comes to terrorists from the north. And those they call bandits. Two, all the various commentators from Afghanistan to Anese Indigbo to Middle Belt Forum to key persons in society are also saying that, look, to the extent that these are persons who are responsible for the abduction of over 1,000 school children, the killings of persons in Jos North, Jos South, and Basa local government area in Jos, and also in parts of Benue, and also in Kaduna State, we have seen abductions. In fact, there was a latest development in Kaduna where the son of Senator Ibn Allah, was strangled in his own house. We commiserate with his family, but nobody should be subjected to that kind of treatment. So are those people too, are they bandits? People who go about strangling, a young man who just got married and who has a right to life. So, I mean, you can have a long list. So I think even on this program, we have often said that, look, these are no longer bandits. These are terrorists. You can't be using a milder phrase to describe them. How do you explain that to persons who are in internally displaced persons camps? How do you explain, a softer label to people who have lost their children, their family members? So this is the issue. But I think that going forward, spokespersons just need to be more careful, and for all of us to ensure that we should not play politics with criminality. We should not play ethnic or religious politics or any kind of politics with crime. When people commit a crime and, under the law, that crime is written into law, of course, government should be seen to be clamping down on those people. Garba Shehu says the Air Force, the Nigeria Air Force, is bombing the forests on a daily basis and has made significant protests. Yes, we appreciate the work of our, soldiers. We need to continue to praise them so that they can help us, protect this environment. But terrorism, these are real issues in Nigeria, and we need to do a lot more. Garba Shehu should just have stopped at the level of saying government is trying its best. Government will continue to do more. But to begin to compare bandits with or terrorists with IPOB, no, I think that's going a little bit too far.
So, what saddens me in this country is hypocrisy. And it is very sad when we do this. Commiserations to all the lives lost. And it is sad that there are still a lot of children in captivity in this country because of terrorists. And now we play politics on nomenclature. I mean, like Tundu said, from time immemorial, revolutions will always tweak the narrative and the statements, just like the French revolutionaries did when they were trying to change the month of the year. In fact, they changed it. So they had other months of the year just to be able to suit them and suit their narrative. But did it work in the end? No. Let's stick to the facts. The truth has to be said. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What you do speaks so loud I can't hear what you say." So if we are saying something and we are doing another thing, then there's a problem somewhere. And secondly, I remember the words of Father Martin de Mola that said at first they came for the socialists, I didn't speak up. Then they came for the unionists, I didn't speak up. Then they came for the Jews, I didn't speak up because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was nobody to speak for me. Let's call a spade a spade. Terrorists are terrorists. No comparison. No juxtaposition. Just like when people say open grazing is not good for us. Don't start comparing them with spare part sellers. They're two different things. Let's stick to what it is. Terrorists are terrorists. Don't compare them with any other person, with IPOB or anything. Terrorists are terrorists. Because it will get to the time that they will come for you. And we pray somebody is there to speak up.
Well, Kachi, I think that's where we draw the curtain today.
Yes.
Thank you very
so
much. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning.